This episode of Kind of Funny Gamescast is brought to you by what, Greg?
Video Blocks!
Video Blocks, my favorite stock footage website. We've talked about it many times. Use it, Kind of Funny Live 1 and Kind of Funny Live 2. Will I use it for Kind of Funny Live 3? The answer is yes. You can go there 100% royalty free even after your subscription comes to an end. So it's a subscription-based thing. You go in, you get unlimited, get whatever you want. There's also audioblocks.com.
Do me a favor and shut up. Guess what, everybody? I used Video Blocks in the Vita relocation program.
You did.
You think I filmed a family at the beach? I didn't.
Funniest moment of the video.
Thank you.
It was great.
Wait, hold
it was
on.
fantastic.
I was in that video.
Video Blocks is offering you all a year subscription to both Video Blocks and Audio Blocks for only $149. This is a $100 discount off the usual price tag for our followers only. An incredible discounted deal to get both stock video and audio. Get your subscription today for only $149 at videoblocks.com/Gamescast 2016.
I can't see it all.
That's videoblocks/Gamescast 2016 for this discounted
You're not
offer.
making it better. You're making it worse. See, my head's blocked now. Video Blocks. Can we make them stock footage? We should make them some stock footage.
Of what? Next topic, the Game Awards. Game Awards 2016 happened last week.
Uh-huh.
We did a predictions topic on Gamescast.
We did?
The week before.
You won? Congratulations.
I won. Tim was right.
Thank you, Kevin.
But during the Game Awards, there was a lot of conversation that we were having, and then later on NeoGAF, of what the fuck is this shit? Is this what the Game Awards should be?
Sure.
So the topic here is, what should the Game Awards be? Going forward, and specifically talking about Jeff Keighley's Game Awards.
Sure.
What did they do right? What did they do wrong? Where can they learn? And more importantly, just like what is it that we expect them to be, and can that thing even exist?
Big question. I love the Game Awards. Jeff Keighley, obviously a friend of ours. We voted on the Game Awards judging board this year. I've been a fan, or at least, and I've been interested in them since they were the Spike TV Awards, of course, right? And I think for me, what the Game Awards are head and shoulders above what the Spike TV Awards were, right? I always talk about when I went to the one down in LA where Elijah Douche Cube came out and announced Uncharted 2 or whatever, right? And it was like, wow, what's going on? And like, how is this? This is weird. And all these celebrities are up there that have not, Samuel L. Jackson. It's just like,
well, don't hate on SLJ.
I love SLJ, but I'm just saying there was a lot of pandering in there, right? Of like, this is what you want, right? Blah, 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 blah. And when Jeff got away from Spike, that was like, I think for a lot of people in the industry, and not, I had talked to Jeff, I think, tangentially before, but never really, you know what I mean, until he struck out on his own and did that first Game Awards with the first PSX, or around the first PSX in Vegas. And I remember being at that first one where it was Imagine Dragons performed with the Nintendo guy.
Koji Kondo.
Thank you so much. And like, to be in the room, I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. Like, that is such a great moment. And it was such a big deal that it was being funded through these different ways, and it wasn't the traditional ad model, and it was more for the gamers, by the gamers, right? And I felt like the Game Awards there were such a great step. That was such a great step, such a great show. It was the first time I remember watching the Game Awards, and that's including VGAs, and being like, wow, they're onto something here. If Jeff's on his own and can do it this way, it's going to be something special, right? During the stream for the latest Game Awards, I was talking about last year's Game Awards, and I'm like, I'm incredibly biased here. I was there, and it was a fucking fantastic night for me because I won. But I remember having that same feeling where I'm in the audience and Stephanie Houston comes out and does Quiet's theme live. And Jeff has the great Kojima speech about, like, he's not allowed to be here, so fuck these guys. I had a good speech. There were good trailers. For me, being there felt like it was about the developers, and it was about the games, and it was about the actors and actresses, right? Troy was in front of me. The lady from Her Story was over there. She went up and won. The Witcher kept winning awards left and right. Like, it in the room felt like it was about games, and it was. Now, getting to year 3, we talked about it on the show, and we're going to talk about it here, obviously. I felt like it was a minor step backwards. I don't think it's off track. I don't think it's spinning off into VGA land, but the Schick Hydro Razor guy, the backstage kicks to Kyle Bossman reminded me a lot of, I forget what VGAs it was, but the one where they kept kicking back. I want to say to Allison Hayslip, but I'm not sure if that's correct, where they were doing like weird mini games, and there was like pies coming out at one point, and they were trying to make, and it was like, what the fuck is this? Why are you doing this? Like, this is time that could be spent on a video game, on an award, on a developer speech. And I'm not saying this year's VGA or the Game Awards were a VGA's performance. They weren't. I just feel like for the first time it was a bit of a step backwards, where it was very blatant that here's Shtick and the Hydro Razor and this thing, and here's Kyle in the back where he's making some reference to whatever the hell it was, another ad kind of thing. I forget my exact example I'm thinking of, but the VR one that he put on. And like, you and I had a conversation on the Game Awards stream. I was like, and you're like, hey, they got to pay the bills, which we of course appreciate. We have to do that too, obviously. But it was that thing of like, I understand that, but when we do an ad read, you and I try to have fun with it, or we do something. And granted, I guess they're trying to have fun here, and I can kind of see. And you kept saying, I think they're in on the joke, and I was like, are they? It wasn't transparent enough that, hey, everybody, we're doing this because we have to do this. Ha 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 ha. It was so that was for me the one problem, because it then became that I felt like there were not as many awards being put on stage, and it wasn't as much about it. But it's so hard for me to say, because the past 2 years that were the Game Awards, I was in the audience, and clearly they weren't showing me all the ads and doing it all.
Yeah.
So I'm skewed, and I don't know if it's reality, if it's just my own bias from being at two shows where I got to see what I got to see.
Yeah. I mean, for the sake of this whole argument, I'm definitely on a side that I think is unpopular when it comes to people's thoughts on this whole thing from a viewer perspective, because I'm looking at it as a production, and I think about the award show as this huge thing that so many people are working on to create an event that is both for the people in the room and for viewers at home. Now, from that, the bills got to get paid. There's not commercials on here. You can bring up all the other award shows, the VMAs, the AMAs, the Grammys, Oscars, whatever. Those are all either on cable channels, getting paid for that way, in addition to commercial time every fucking 5 seconds, or on ABC or whatever, and they have the commercials in addition to things like Ellen pulling up a Samsung phone to do the selfies and stuff. It's like those integrations are happening everywhere, right? So with this, it's like, all right, was the Shtick Razor Man like over the top? Yeah, and the reason I think that they were in on the joke, and I think it might have missed the mark, just because they're in on the joke doesn't excuse them, is the fact that it's Kyle and all that. Kyle, and with the Easy Allies, the advertising's kind of a joke. So it'd be the equivalent of, what if we were part of the Game Awards, and if someone pitched me, hey, Tim, you want to like interview the Razor guy? Like, we would think it's funny, and our audience would think it's funny that I'm doing that, because they know me. They know that shtick. And I feel like with Kyle, it's the same way. Kyle's that guy for that group where he makes fun of the sponsorship. So him doing it, it's kind of the joke. Again, misses the mark when most people don't get that reference. But at the same time, it had to happen for this thing to happen on the scale that it did. And unfortunately, a lot of it comes down to, all right, well, they needed money to get celebrities to do this thing, but we don't want celebrities. We want to see awards. We want this, whatever. The problem is they don't care what you want. They care what the majority of people want. They care about growing this thing. And they have their obvious business ramifications that they need to consider, but they also have goals that they're trying to push that aren't thinking about what NeoGAF has to say about them.
Sure.
I think that when it comes to, like, so many people are bitching about why aren't all the awards being shown? Because people don't care. That's called the DICE Awards, and nobody watches them. That's the GDC Awards. There's all these different prestigious award shows that nobody watches at all. So it's like, all right, there's no money there. There's no viewers there. Those are happening. So it's like, cool. If you just want people to get their time and their awards, that's happening. Watch any award show. They're not showing every award. Sure. Like, if there's 20 awards, you'll be like, get 7 of them, right? Like, and I'm talking about things like the VMAs, even on the Oscars and Grammys. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of awards being given away, and most of them aren't televised, because then you're going to be going down the list of best VFX in a TV show, and it's like, it's so specific that there's just not time to show this stuff. So I think that they did a really good job of pinpointing the awards to televised in quotes, to kind of tell a story. I think that focusing on the trending gamer is really important, despite the internet being like, who gives a fuck about this? Award the people. Because the trending gamer, it's trying to show people what gaming is as a culture and what gaming can be. And in addition to that, things like the Kojima stuff, where people are like, oh, did he really need to, give his freaking love speech to Kojima for 10 minutes and like make it so much about Kojima to the point that it's awkward? It's like, well, I would argue, yeah, because that's trying to treat Kojima like a celebrity, trying to treat him like he matters, which will then get us to a point that the Game Awards can be stuff where we are awarding game developers for being celebrities, for being people that people should know. Because until then, we're just going to get real celebrities, like, because that's what people know. People latch onto that. That's what trends on Twitter. And the argument about the musical performance is, it's like, I get it from both sides, but they're also producing a show for the people in that room, and the people in that room are into it.
Sure.
Or they're journalists that aren't into it, and they're not going to be into anything. So they're just there for the announcements and stuff. And I also think it's unfair to look at the musical acts and just be like, oh man, this has nothing to do with gaming. It has everything to do with gaming. That's what games are. Games are licensed music. Whether you like it or not, 90% of video games now are licensed music. And the rappers that Run the Jewels and Ray Stremmen, whatever the hell he is.
Run the Jewels had a Gears tie-in.
Run the Jewels, they've been in like every video game this year. So it's like, that's where that comes down. They also did the Doom soundtrack, which is their equivalent to the Koji Kondo thing a couple years ago and to Stephanie Houston last year. And then the Ray Stremmen guy, #1 song in the world right now. So it's like, okay, cool. They're doing that stuff for reasons. Last year they had churches. What did churches have to do with video games? Oh, they're in a couple of them. You know, so it's like, those are the things where it's like, I get that you don't like that, but those things need to happen for this. And at the end of the day, the Game Awards, the awards part of it is just part of it. Video games are in a unique place where, unlike any other industry, there's things like E3 where, hey, watch us do a press conference where we announce a bunch of shit and show you trailers. Do movies have that? The closest thing's the Super Bowl, right? Like, it's not like there's some music day where people come out and like a whole bunch of artists come out and be like, here's the albums coming out this year, right? Or in movies, it's like Marvel did that thing one time where they had their press conference to kind of talk about what the MCU was going to be. But besides that, you don't see, you know, or even if it happens, it's definitely not a big mainstream movie event in the way that in video games it is mainstream for these game announcements. And I think that the Game Awards has filled a void of the late year E3. It's that second thing. We got PSX, but where else are we going to see all the other guys have stuff? You know, Nintendo for years has been debuting things there, whether it's bullshit like Cranky Kong's playable in Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, or things of substance like Zelda Breath of the Wild before we knew it was Breath of the Wild being shown for the first time. And even with like a lot of people are like, oh man, what they show this year sucked. It's like, okay, watching it, expecting to be blown the fuck away. Yeah, but compared to the last couple of years, we actually got a shit ton this year. Like every year, they're getting more and more exclusives that matter, more and more, even if they're not exclusives, just like new looks at things of substance. I mean, looking at this year, we got Mass Effect, Andromeda, Walking Dead premiere, Zelda Breath of the Wild trailer, and Let's Play things showing more than we've ever seen in that game when we didn't expect to see anything from it until the Nintendo presentation. Shovel Knight, Spectre, Torment, Halo Wars 2, Death Stranding, Dauntless, Bulletstorm Remaster, Telltale's Guardians of the Galaxy, Lawbreakers, Warfare, Assassin's Creed Experience, whatever. That's enough games where it's like, that's a wide net where, yeah, you may not like everything. And there's Prey as well. But there's something for everybody there. And I think that that's important because to give people these seeds means next year they'll have more.
And see, that's, I think, part of it that I was driving at before you just gave a very good rundown of it, you know what I mean? Because, again, didn't hate him. Just thought, I think it might even be my own personal bias, right? In the fact that it's a kind of like PSX 2015, right? It's 2016 now. So last year's PSX 2015. In the way of PSX, remember, had a bad ending. And then also when you talk to Adam Boyes afterwards, or I mean, if that's even correct, when we talk to anybody afterwards, they'd be like, we want to have a few different things in there, right? We want to have something where somebody comes and they leave and they have 2 to 3 things inside of this conference they were super passionate about, right? And so for me, it's like Mass Effect was great. Breath of the Wild I've played, this, that, and the other. Then even awards, right? Like, again, I'm not one of the guys who's saying 2016 was bad for games. I am saying that I think 2015 was way better for me. There were a lot of great games this year, but Overwatch isn't my jam, right? So am I super stoked that they're out there winning awards and people are going up there and I don't know anybody on that team. And again, personal bias of it's exciting to see. Oh man, like I thought The Witcher was great. They're honoring The Witcher. Oh man, Metal Gear was great. Hideo Kojima's got this thing. It's not happening, but oh my God. Her story was great. Emily Was Away was great. All these different things, you know, where that was like such a big deal to see those people honored. Where this year it's like, yeah, these games are great. Oh, good, I'm glad they're winning, but I'm like, blah, blah, blah. I'm not as invested in it. Maybe is the problem, and that's maybe a problem for other people too.
I thought you gave a very eloquent rundown of why I think a lot of the things worked, and I'll also say that I feel that having firsthand knowledge and experience and being able to have witnessed smaller productions being done in the lift that those require from people that know way more about it than me. I give them a lot of credit for pulling the show off. The thing that I'll say is that I think the balance between awards and chicanery and reveals was totally off. And I did look into it. And I actually remember talking to Nick. He drove me home that night, and I was like, "The Oscars show way more awards than this, right?" And he was like, "Yes." And so I was like,
But for the record, there's more Oscars. I think that's part of the problem.
Well, sure, but I was also like, so
There's what, Oscars?
More Oscars. The Game Awards in general has
Oh,
what?
oh
20,
yeah.
Like
the
you're
Oscars
saying,
are also like 3.5 hours long.
Sure.
And so I was like, okay, so that's an interesting thing that I wanted to walk away from. But specifically, you had brought up, which I think is a salient point, that our E3s and Gamescoms and TGSs and Paris Games Week are very unique and very endemic to the gaming industry. No one else has those, and it's true. We are a unique and forward-thinking industry, and we have been for 40 years. Long before any of us were born. And E3 was born out of CES because of the idea that we can do it differently and do it better, right? We could have just stayed with technology and stayed with computers, and we didn't. We chose not to do that. To me, the Game Awards are very 20th century. And it reminds me a lot of this drive to try to get gaming movies, right? Like, we have to have an Uncharted movie. It's like, no, you don't. What are you trying to prove to everyone? Like, we should be the ones that are emulated in terms of the gaming industry, because we have a very forward-thinking, interactive, pioneering industry that requires pioneering solutions to old problems about, like, how do you honor game creators? How do you reveal a product? How do you celebrate game culture? And I just feel like it's a nice attempt, and I think it's the best attempt possible right now, considering what people want to put into it. But I don't think it's a hit. I don't think it works. And I just want to say that I think that it's nothing against Jeff. I like Jeff. I know Jeff. I think he's a great guy. And I think that the production, based on what it was fine. I think it was fine. It was interesting. I watched it. It was, I think, the right amount of time. I just want us to come up, people smarter than me and more intelligent than me and have with more intuitive ideas, come up with something that makes sense for us, because this doesn't make sense for us. And that was my one big takeaway. I don't need another show with reveals. In fact, I would rather have them have clever ways to just celebrate. We talk about DICE and the GDC awards and all that kind of stuff, and that's fine. I don't care about those either. I'm interested in the winners. I don't watch them. But if we want to celebrate game creators, and the people that work so hard on these games, then let's do that, and not worry about getting eyeballs based on reveals. They're two different things. They're separate. At the Oscars, they don't reveal typically a slew of movies. And they just celebrate the people that have already made the movies. And so, to Tim's point, and I think it's important, that might not get eyeballs or garner eyeballs, but it's probably the right thing to do. And we already have an E3. We already have a Gamescom. We already have a PSX. We already have all these things. We don't need another one.
We already have
we already have a George. It's like what I was saying about Abzu. We already have a Journey.
See, my argument to that, though, is we already have award shows. We already have IGN's Game of the Year. We already have all of that. And I think that what we don't have is something like this. We don't have something that is... This is the VMAs of games. And I think that having that, where it is a self-produced event that celebrates games the way that they are celebrating them, I think that it is unique compared to everything else in the gaming sphere. Is it just copying what movies and them do? Yeah, but like the thing there is, again, trying to step away from the Academy Awards and think more of it as an MTV Movie Awards or VMAs, where it's like, what happens at those shows? Trailers for new movies, performances by artists, and they give away a couple awards. And I think that that's what this is. And I think that it stands alone then, because it's not quite an E3 where it's just messages being delivered by the people that are making the games. And that's all that it is, and numbers and graphs and all that stuff. But it's also not awards and just reviews and celebrations of games for what they've done. It is kind of a mixing of the two to then have games be celebrated in a way outside of gamers. And I think that is what its goal is. Whereas the gamers wanting to celebrate games, they're going to IGN to see what IGN Game of the Year, and bitch about in the comments. And then on the other side, they're going to wherever it is they go to get their trailers and stuff to give their opinion on the new movies they've seen. This is ironically unique in the gaming world, and I think necessary because it's enjoyable. It's entertainment content.
What's unique about it, and what I've always liked about it, and I when I say that, I mean Game Awards, and then to an extent, I guess more like Judges Week, right? When they do an E3 game of the show, is the fact that when I was working at IGN, and even I guess I don't know if I really knew about it when I was on the outside if it existed, but the idea of it being the Justice League, where it is, all right, Kind of Funny votes and IGN votes and all these other different sites and people vote, so you get this consensus, right? And yeah, you know, we call that DICE Awards. You could put the BAFTAs in there. You could put the GDC Awards in there, and how, okay, well, nobody watches those. Those are ones where I don't feel those are meant to be watched necessarily. You know, GDC is always the GDC Awards and the Independent Game Awards, right? IDGAs are all at the same time. IDGFAs, whatever. There's 2 award shows back to back, but they're for the developers that are all there who want to come out and honor each other. And DICE is the same way, right? All right, cool. All these developers in their tuxes who want to honor each other. DICE is, I mean, like, I've never been to a DICE. It seems always very like.
I went to one DICE, and it is that. It's a lot of
let's get dressed up and celebrate
dress
each
up
other.
and hug each other.
Celebrate
and it's super
each other in
cool.
particular. Yeah, and like that's not necessarily meant for our prying eyes. That isn't supposed to be the live stream. And so what I love about the Game Awards is the fact that I think Jeff is on to something. And I think every year he's making this stew or soup, right? And he's adding a little bit and tasting
Turning
it.
butter all the time.
He's doing. Isn't this how you make soup and stew? He's puts a little bit in, then tastes it, and then comes away from it, and like that. And I love the fact that like the day after he tweeted like, "What did everybody think? I really want to know." Right? And I'm sure he's watching this video, and I feel like he's going to get it. And I think you brought it up in the beginning of your part that there's a balance to it, and maybe this year it was the chicanery, as you said, outbalancing the awards. And I think that's something to take to heart and bring back the other way, because it is that. And I don't know if it's just me. And like even the seeds of the speech from last year for me, right? Of the fact that I feel like developers don't get enough time and enough game players don't understand the people who are behind it. And like the fucking speech for That Dragon Cancer, right? Man, I want fucking people to see that, and I want that to have a platform, and I want that to get to people so they understand. And as we build Troy Bakers and Nolan Norths and, you know, Mark Cerny's and personalities, you start to get to the point where we always talk about it, right? Oscars work because movies are sold by who's in them. And maybe as we continue down this line of games and you have Kojima's coming up, right? And you have David Cage's coming up. Maybe we get to the point where, oh man, Cliff Bleszinski made this game. Everybody's going to care on a different level. And we get to that point where that can be, this is all part of the same groundswell. Where I always, you know, talk about how I think Up at Noon was ahead of its time in a way, right? In terms of like we started, like Dave Fennoy is more popular because of Up at Noon, and but it's also he's more popular because Telltale did amazing work with him and really fucking broke down a lot of walls with The Walking Dead season 1. So all these things are happening at once, and we're all trying to get it and figure out how to make it something.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I think you really hit the nail on the head there. It's like it takes the Up at Noons to get stuff, and it takes the Jeff Show now on YouTube, where it's like it really, you look at it and you're kind of like, ooh, why are you doing that? Like, why do we need all this high production value? As I sit here in a freaking room with a video wall, it's like, this stuff's necessary for this shit to be taken seriously, for more money to be put here organically, to be able to do the things that we want to do,
to push
not
the envelope,
things that we feel like we have to do, and all of that. And you're right, like what Up at Noon did, Up at Noon, for better or worse, changed the industry of video game videos, right? And how people thought of that type of content and interview content. You interviewed people about their roles on games, whether they're a voice actor or a director or a level design editor, whatever it is. Like you made them celebrities for that 15 minutes, right? And I think that we need more of that. And that's why I think, going back to what I was saying, that him giving Kojima that moment was important, you know? And I feel like Kojima is probably the top of the food chain when it comes to that, but it'll trickle down, and it does require time to get all of this stuff going. But it's important for Up at Noon to copy talk shows, to be able to do its own thing, because you can't just do your own thing or else it's going to fail. When it comes to this type of stuff, and it's just a tried and true sad fact, but you can't do the thing for the love of it until you do the thing to make money to do that thing for the love of it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you're right. I mean, I'm always concerned, even in our own corporation when we talk about it, but generally about the incessant drive for the monetary realities. Yet it is important to have the monetary realities at the forefront, or you can't, you know, it's chicken or the egg kind of situation. I stand the Kojima thing. I thought was funny. I thought that he was talking about Kojima like his plane crashed in Vietnam and he was a POW for 7 years. So I thought that was pretty funny, and I got a lot of play on Twitter. I thank you for that. But the specific thing that I think I'll stand by is that I think it is a 20th century television era solution for an internet-driven 21st century industry. And the only reason that so much money, the shtick man and the video game, you know, all that kind of stuff has to be shown is because, and the ads, there was a lot of endemic gaming ads showed, is because of the scale of the production. And I don't agree that it has to be that way. In an era where people are twitching to hundreds of thousands of people from their bedroom, I actually think that stripping it down and making it more personable. Jeff Keighley in a room like this and a couch, having developers come in and get their awards, I think would require almost no money. They'd probably have a bigger margin, and they would be able to do what is necessary to attract a younger 21st century gaming audience. And that's all I'm trying to say. I think one of the telling things that I saw, I was surprised about how empty that place was, and that it doesn't need to be in that venue. Like, it's not impressive. It's actually depressing to see it in that venue when it's not full. And so I think it has to scale back. I think the balance, the chicanery v reveal v award thing, I mean, that's something they have to figure out. But I think that it doesn't have to be. I really feel like I think the corollary to the movies is really important to gaming movies, where it's like we find our own solutions to all these problems. And I think, again, you bring up E3 as a great idea, like a great point, where it's like we have unique solutions to unique problems or unique set of circumstances in gaming that movies and TV and all these things don't, and music, they're from another era and another time, and we can show them how it's done, and I think that's what's so fun about it. And so that's my big takeaway and my big recommendation to Jeff is to just, and they won't, it's going to be the same place, the bigger and better.
The proof's in the pudding, and I think that's
my
the problem.
take.
But also, I think
it was at a different place this year, so I mean, it could be a different place next year.
Right, but what I mean is, like, it's going to be in a large theater with high production values, and I'm sure hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of staff and equipment and all that kind of stuff. And I just don't feel like it's necessary. And so that's just my takeaway. That said, I think the show was just fine. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was bad at all. I just want us to remember how unique we are as a group, and that we love interactivity, and we love storytelling, we love all these things. And yeah, the DICE Awards might not attract eyeballs, but it's because they're not doing it right. And I want someone to take a very buttoned up approach to this at some point and just try it.
Well, I just want to point out, like, people have tried it, and the proof's in the pudding, and it didn't work out. When we were at IGN, we did that Judgment Day. That's what that is. Right. It was inviting devs to come and talk about, give awards and do that whole like exactly what you just said. And it wasn't worth the trouble. It's like, it didn't get the views. It just caused a lot of shitstorm in the comments of negativity and stuff, because that's what award shows do.
So you're saying we should
disagreeing. But I mean,
move the desk out of the side, put up whatever background, we do an award show here.
We totally could, idea. But we do it. I mean, we do on Gamescast, like just giving out like our Game of the Year
But this
award.
when we invite Tim Schafer over, and he just accepts every award on behalf of whoever.
Yeah. And I mean, but
that's actually a really good video.
I'm definitely
Game
down for that.
Game of the Year, Overwatch, here to accept Tim Schafer.
Yeah, I'm down for that. But I think that is the problem, is that there is realities to this. And even as simple as having developers come out, that costs money. You got to fly them out. You got to put them up. And it's like, you have all these different teams with their PR people that have representation. Like, even us getting Let's Plays. We did a Let's Play yesterday, and there's freaking 10 people in the room. Imagine people wanted to be here for an award show.
Well, that's a whole nother frustration with just the publishers and marketers just blowing fucking money. Although it's not as bad as it used to be. I was talking to someone about that, but that's a whole nother problem about why do these companies spend so much money on all this bullshit?
Because spending the money makes money. And I think that is really what this all boils down to. And I know that I'm beating a dead horse again, but it's just like, there's so much behind the scenes bullshit that make these things the way that they are. It's not like Jeff Keighley's making this and is just like, I'm blind and deaf and don't hear and don't understand what you guys are saying. It's that I hear what you're saying, but there's a but, And I think that we are really making good steps towards the Game Awards getting better and better.
Yeah.
Every year we're getting more reveals, which is why I watch them. Who wins the award? Great. I don't need to watch that. I can look at a recap later and see who won and see who had good speeches. And that is a thing that I want to give a shout out to. And I said this during the show itself, but I think that your speech motivated people to step their speech game up, because it's the Game Awards. You win stuff. Cool. You get to go. Thank my mom. Thank my dad. Thank my team. Cool. Bye. But it's like, no, because of your speech, you took that shit seriously and you had a platform. You put your money where your mouth is when it comes to this conversation. And you tried making the Game Awards better. You tried making the Game Awards what it should be. And I think that you changed them. Mm-hmm. I think that every speech that we saw this year, I think to some extent was influenced by your speech. And whether or not it's directly to you, like, I think that you setting that standard and setting that level allowed other people to have powerful speeches that weren't all just the same thing. And I think that Nolan coming out and taking the opportunity to say the things he said was powerful and awesome.
I guess that's part of it. Maybe that's part of this, why this one is, I feel a step back or weird is the fact that you're right. The speeches all were good. And so it was that juxtaposition of going from Nolan's speech of like, holy shit, everyone. A lot of people didn't even like really catch it. I'm like, holy shit, he's talking about like, he's the first ever giant video game actor to come out and be like, this strike's bullshit. And he's saying that right now. And it's like, holy fuck, we've been waiting for someone to say something. And here it is. And it's happening live as he wins this award for his voice acting. It was like, holy shit, was that powerful? So then to jump to, here's something goofy. And they even had the problem with the Dragon Cancer speech where they came back and it was like, you could see them not stall, but I felt like they were trying to this middling area of like, let's talk long enough about this to get you away from that because there's no way to pull out of that without a commercial break.
And that's the problem. It's like these guys give these rousing, amazing speeches, and then dubstep music plays.
That's a really interesting point.
And then it's back to Justine and Matt Pat, who delivered the award. And
great folks.
How are they supposed to handle that?
Yeah.
And then the internet rips everyone apart because it's just like, it's so insensitive for them to play this music. Like they don't even care. It's like, that's the problem of the live production aspect of it. Where it's like, this is an award show, and this is a thing where it's like, the music is like transition music. It's not an emotional like score to what just happened. And it's like not reacting to what people just did. It's moving the show along. And that gets super complicated. And it also goes back to, me and you got to do something super unique this year and host the Final Fantasy Uncovered event.
Sure.
And I never thought I'd be in a position where I get to be the guy on stage that I'm making snarky comments about online.
Yeah.
And it's just like, we did a bunch of shit and said a bunch of shit in a way.
But you've nailed it. It only took us like 40 minutes. I don't know when this topic started, but you nailed it of what was wrong. And I couldn't put my finger on it. It was tone. Final Fantasy, sure, we acted like goons and we interviewed Lena Headey, and there was great parts and weird parts, right? And I'm sure there were. But from the main comments I saw, were like, oh, but you guys did a great job. That was a lot of fun. They wasn't like, fuck you guys, all this other crap. And I'm sure they're out there. Again,
that's my thing.
Anything you do on the internet. But what I'm saying is our tone was consistent from point A to point B on that thing. Whereas the tone for the Game Awards this year felt like it was all over the map. Where it was all of a sudden, we're doing the award show, we're honoring the developer, we're honoring Kojima. Here's the Razor, here's this great speech. All right, we're back down here with some rap group you've never heard of. All right, we're back. Yeah.
I mean, I think that it's a little unfair to say that because even the Final Fantasy thing, all of a sudden we're promoting a car because it's in the Kingsglaive movie.
Sure.
And it's like, we handled it goofy, but that was their way of handling it goofy. And I'm sure that we thought it was funny, but I know for a fact NeoGaf didn't think it was funny.
Nah.
But that's the thing is it's like, there's no pleasing these people. And no matter who is on the stage, no matter what they do.
There's no pleasing people. You can take out these people. Yeah. I mean, everybody has a different opinion.
That's what I'm saying is it's just like, there is no perfect award show. So
just to your point, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just look at the Vita relocation program, which you brought up before. I read the NeoGaf thread on that.
Oh my God.
It's like, are you fucking kidding me?
They're joking, guys. We're like, no, we're not.
Nothing that will satiate, the specific crowd that will look for anything to bitch about. I get that. So I understand.
Yeah, and it's just hard because these guys that stand on stage. All right. I think one of the most astute comments that I've read in the last year, and it was geared towards us, but it fits this totally, is, all right, we're gaming personalities, so we can critique games for them being games. People are allowed to critique us for our personalities. And I was like, you're fucking right.
Yeah.
So the moment someone goes on stage and is presenting, they can be critiqued as presenters.
Sure, yeah.
And that's what they're doing. And cool, fair enough. I get it. I know that we didn't nail the Final Fantasy thing.
We nailed
it as much as we had to, right? I had a great time. You had a good time. We both stood by what we believed in. We knew what we were doing. We were doing a job, and I feel like we did it well while holding on who we are, in almost entire. It was almost a joke how much they let us do whatever the fuck we wanted to do. But that's the thing was with these Game Awards, it is Jeff. Jeff was the one consistent tone throughout the whole thing. But yeah, when other people come up and they're reading off a prompter and then some guy gives a rousing speech that's super emotional, how are you going to plan for that?
No, and I'm not saying, exactly. I'm not saying, what am I saying, I guess? I've been wondering why these Game Awards felt weird or different or a step backwards, just a minor one again. And I think it's the tone. And how do you plan for that? I think everybody has to take it seriously. Not to the point of, there's no fun here. No, whenever we come out of a speech, I'm going to act like they just told me President Kennedy was shot. No, I mean, there's a balance to it, though. That was interesting. And how to strike that is weird. Because that's even with the musical performances, I feel. Where, Imagine Dragons and Koji Kondo.
Kondo.
Thank you. Kondo? Sorry, I'm
Kondo,
so sorry. Serious and gaming, but fun. You know what I mean? And Stephanie Houston, serious, gaming, fun. Churches, I feel not serious, but gamey, of course, like you're talking about, and fun. Like there's a tone to it.
The problem here, though, is then we're just getting into musical taste. What's
Sure.
the difference between churches and rap groups? You don't like rap,
one's
you're
really
not gonna
good.
fucking like this. But that's the problem. Is I think the Doom section is the more apt thing to talk about here. And it's like, okay, cool. Doom is comparable to Koji Kondo and
Sure.
Quiet's theme. But the other stuff, that's churches. And if you either like churches or you don't, you either like rap music or you don't.
If it would have been...
They're pee breaks that they need to be pee breaks.
If it would have been the Ritz, I would have been fine. AKA White Jesus. Strange music
White
represents.
Jesus.
Strange music!
Any closing words, Call?
No, I hope Jeff made a lot of money. And I mean that in all
sure that he
sincerity, you know, because
I hope-
because I think it's a big lift. And you're right. You know, like the everything is open for criticism, including us. You know, I'm criticized every day. We all are. But there are ways to go about that. I never try to be super mean-spirited or attack individuals, and I think that's the big difference. So if you have something to deliver to Jeff, you should just deliver it about the show and not about him personally. That's my line, and where I like to lose my fucking mind on people. But I agree with you. I think it is important to be open to the criticism and to the concerns of those out there. And you know, I think that they can better tailor the show to be what it needs to be. But I you know, other than that, I you know. Again, knowing what you guys went through with Kind of Funny Live and Kind of Funny Live 2, what we've gone through with E3s and GDC show. I mean, these are like fucking
Herculean
minuscule.
efforts. Yeah, they're Herculean for us, let alone this.
And
that's what
so it is a lift, and you do have to appreciate that. You do not respect what folks behind a camera or in production go through until you're in it. You just don't. And whether or not you like it or not, like I certainly have learned a great deal in the last 10 years about what goes into all this shit, and especially in the last 2 years. And you do become a little kinder about misses because of the work that goes into them, and so that's important.
And to Colin's point, like, I hope Jeff made money, but I more importantly hope Jeff keeps at it. Like, I do think he is pushing the sled, he is moving the needle, he is doing something that if he didn't do, it would be all right. There's the IGN Game Award and this, they would all matter less because there were so many of them. I just want to put that on Colin's ring finger already. Come here, let me marry you. Wait, let me marry you.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. You know, he'll forever get shit for being the Mountain Dew Dorito guy, but like. Because he did that.
I'm the layer guy for the rest of my life.
But because he was that guy, he gets to do the Game Awards the way he wants to do it and the way he believes in it. And I think that's what's important. And he obviously has a ton of people that support him. The same way that we have a ton of people supporting us. And people can complain about how we do ads, or people can complain about the content we do, or this or that. But it's the people that believe in us that allow us to do the things that we want. And with everything, it's a multi-step process where it's like, all right, we're doing this to be able to get the means to do that. Yeah. And it's not just money. It's fan base, it's community, it's trust, it's all these things. And like, I can tell you for damn sure that you winning Trending Gamer meant so much to Kind of Funny. That changed so much from a business standpoint of being able to talk to advertisers and be like, we have Trending Gamer of the Year last year.
I will always be Trending Gamer of the Year 2015. You can just always phrase it that way. Or we could buy Boogie.
Yeah. But that helped us, you know? So it's like these Game Awards, they mean stuff to people. You know, you walk into any game developer that has won stuff and it's prominently displayed, you know? It's like you watching it, a lot of people could think that it's a joke, but it's not a joke to the people that it matters to. So I really think he's doing a great job, and I think that he needs to keep at it.